Joining me now is former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Saland to talk a little bit more about this. So first of all, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
Well, when you think about today's testimony, did anything stand out to you in the cross-examination of Michael Cohen?
Well, I think it certainly went better than it did before, but I also would say you don't want your cross-examination to be long in the tooth. You want to sort of make sure you don't have diminishing returns, do what you need to do and get off. Some of the cross-examination really kind of left, well, why are we going down this road? You can only hit certain things so many times.
So, I mean, I guess is the big thing with Michael Cohen just to do what you can to diminish his credibility? And if that's the main question with him, do you think that they were able to accomplish that?
Yeah, part of this defense is to make it about Michael Cohen, and to a lesser extent, even make it about Stormy Daniels. You have a blackmailer, extorter on one hand, and then you have a guy who is a vengeful, angry person who wants some money out of this and is a known liar who lied to Congress, who lied in court, who's been convicted of felonies for tax fraud. If you can make it about that, then you can sort of move it away from the falsifying business records, which is exactly what the prosecution doesn't want to see happen. They want to bring it back. So there was some effectiveness to that, but it's not an easy task.
There was an interesting tactic, I guess, used by the defense today. You had 11 Republican representatives in the courtroom today. Matt Gaetz, you had Michael Cloud, Lauren Boebert, to name a few. What's your reaction to bringing these members of Congress into this courtroom, and how does a jury react to that?
It does nothing for your case. I wouldn't even give that an asterisk. It does nothing for your case. And what I saw was a bunch of guys who probably read, who read the book from former President Trump about loyalty, and they have their own agenda. And I'll use a term a little flippant and cavalier, almost like they're bootlickers. They want his attention, they want his love. Maybe I can be vice president. But when you have a guy who was accused of being with underage girls, you have a former or current congresswoman who is trying to find a district to run in and got kicked out of Beetlejuice. Boy, that really shows that you've got the most credible, great people on your side. But that has nothing to do with the court. That has everything to do with this agenda outside the courtroom to be, we're all good troopers for the former president, and he's going to win again, and we're standing in line.
How do you really feel about it? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, should I keep on going? Well, I'm a big proponent, and I think it's so important, whether you wear red or blue goggles, that in that courtroom, he is innocent until proven guilty. He is as guilty as you and me, and that should be lost on nobody. But outside of the courtroom, the conduct and misconduct, I think, of tearing down the criminal justice system has been so reprehensible, because that's not what he should be doing. Fight your case in the courtroom. You are innocent. You can argue that there's a political agenda. Fight it in the courtroom. Don't tear it all down for your own gain.
And let's talk about what is now taking place in that courtroom, because Michael Cohen, the prosecution's star witness, he's done with his cross-examination. I guess, do they redirect? Are they done with their witnesses? Do you expect the prosecution to rest their case right now and have the defense go?
So my understanding is that this was the last witness by the prosecution. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that strategy, because you don't want to leave on someone who may be the key central figure, even though it's not about him, it's about the records themselves. But you want to kind of bookend him with strong witnesses and other things that corroborate him. But to go back and try to rehabilitate, I don't think they necessarily need to. And again, there's diminishing returns. Get him what he needs to say, get him off the stand, and move forward.
So given everything we've heard, I mean, if this is where it ends for the prosecution, do we expect any case from the defense? And at this point, has the prosecution made a strong enough case?
So in terms of the defense, I think they're limited in what they need to do, if anything. Maybe calling someone about election law and about what happened, because there's that piece. Remember, they're not looking, meaning the prosecution, for misdemeanor conviction. They have to bring that second piece. You have the intent to defraud and when you made the false records, but there's also the piece that it's to conceal or commit another crime. What is that other crime? It's some election-related crime. That was kind of lacking, I believe, on the part of the prosecution. There wasn't much meat to that. So maybe on the defense you bring that out, but otherwise, if you can make it the defense show about Michael Cohen, and if you don't believe him, this whole case falls, that's the strategy.
I know that it's impossible to read a jury. Given that, read the jury. Like, can you make anything of what you've seen, the reaction of jurors, what we've heard about some of them yawning and not taking notes?
Well, I like that you say it's impossible to read a jury, but can you read the jury?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so my read of the jury is a sleeping jury is a convicting jury, a sleeping jury is an acquitting jury. So it's really hard to say. That being said, they clearly became more engaged and excited when Blanche became more excitable and there was more responses. And to the credit of Michael Cohen, from what I've read, I'm not in that courtroom, is that he gave better answers and more yes or no answers. And if he didn't recall, he didn't recall. But I wouldn't read too much into it, other than to say at some point that diminishing return comes in, and This should be a really tight case. It's a falsifying business records case. Move it forward, move it forward.
And just quickly, of course, Michael Cohen's not your ideal star witness, but you're a former prosecutor. You've probably dealt with that a lot. You have to deal with the cards you're dealt. How much of a problem is that when you have a really flawed person that large parts of your case rest on?
You take that flaw and you make it to your benefit. He's a bad guy, he's lied, he's inside, he's done these things, but who else is going to have those answers, right? Who else is going to know what's going on? If you're trying to get the kingpin and there's this criminal enterprise, we'll just use that analogy, not saying that's what this is, you need a guy who has his hands dirty. He's not Sammy the Bull taking down the mob, but Sammy the Bull was who he was. Michael Cohen is who he is.
And we will see whether he is enough for the prosecution soon enough. Jeremy Saland, thank you so much for coming on the Rush Hour to give us your expert insight into this trial.